Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Geeks Who Like Sports, episode number 2. I'm Ray Carcillo, as always, joined by my best friend, Mr. Lee Elias. Lee, how's it going over there in Philadelphia, my friend?
Ray, it's cloudy outside, and it's a perfect day to talk about Batman because of the cowl of the sky.
Yes, yes. Well, it's bright and sunny here in Los Angeles, so I'm glad you're channeling Batman as much as possible because, folks, it is Batman's 80th anniversary really this year. But we just celebrated it officially last week. 80 years of Batman first debuted in Detective Comics number 27 back in 1939. Wow. So 80 years of Batman. Lee, I want to know first, right off the bat, how did you get into Batman? What was your first Batman memory?
The easiest, it's Michael Keaton Batman. My brother, who is 5 years older than me, remember he took me to see a bunch of Batman movies, but that was my first foray into Batman, is watching just the original movie, which really, looking back on it now with some context, it was way ahead of its time. It was a really ambitious film. I don't think we talk about it enough in that vein. Everybody talks about how much they love that Batman with Michael Keaton, but it was 1989, correct, when that came out?
Yes.
Yeah, so, you're talking about the late 80s, Tim Burton. It was a very ambitious film at a time when Batman was not known as being dark outside of the comic books. Right. I think people give that film a lot of credit, but not enough credit to especially modern superhero films. But that was my first taste of Batman, is 1989's Batman and the Prince soundtrack, which we may or may not still listen to once in a while.
Party man. Anyway,
that was a great scene. Come on.
Yeah, no, it was. But we can't sing more than that because of legal reasons.
Not Ray. No, actually, I want you to sing it, Ray.
No, I'm not going to sing it.
I have a cold. That easy.
I have a cold. I don't feel good.
All right.
So maybe next week.
I used to thought he was saying Charlemagne, but it's Party Man. That's okay.
I'm glad that you mentioned the history of 89, because Batman 89, before I get into my moment, people forget that this was coming off of fresh of Superman 4. Yeah. Comic book movies were kind of at a low point at that point. People didn't think a dark comic book movie could work, and Burton kind of turned it on its head. And really, it's the grandfather of the modern superhero film, right?
Absolutely.
As much as Christopher Reeve's Superman in 1978 really got things started to show that comic book films could be viable, we still draw, I think, a lot of the narrative and a lot of tone from Burton's 89 Batman when it comes to a lot of comic book films. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I'll also say, too, the difference between kind of Superman and Batman. And I love the original Superman. Superman 4 was a mess, but I'll just blame that on the time period. But one of the things that movie really did that Superman didn't was establish Gotham City as its own kind of world and its own entity, which, again, the set design on that film, which never gets enough credit. It
won an Oscar.
But just by fans today. Obviously at the time. What I'm saying is that we never talk about the set design for Gotham City and how that it absolutely inspired a lot of Batman stuff beyond the movie. I would say that the cartoon was heavily borrowed from that movie.
Yes.
And Superman, Metropolis was New York City. They show pictures of the Twin Towers in the in the first movie. So not that I blame them for that. It was the time of the it's not like they could have CGI'd up a whole city at that point. And I won't compare yesteryear's films to today's in terms of CGI. That would be totally unfair. But Batman was a very character-driven story. Obviously cast it perfectly. Obviously Jack Nicholson. So many ambitious roles in that film. It's again. Yeah. Batman on himself is a very simple character, all right? A lot of people think he's super complex, and he's really not. He's just kind of a fun-loving millionaire, and he's Batman. It's not super hard. The Joker is a totally different level, and it's not a surprise to me that some of the most iconic performances in film history are that character. And it looks like, I didn't mean to segue out of this, but it looks like we might be getting another one. But before we get into that, I do just want to say, and for those of you listening who don't know, Ray has been into Batman more than anyone I have ever seen in my entire life. He knows comic book numbers. He knows that story deeper than I ever will. But I do want to say that 80 years of anything is unbelievable. When you look at things that last, the fact that, Batman, Superman, comic legends, mythology in general has been around 80 years, that is something I don't want to just like say, oh yeah, it's the 80th birthday. It is unbelievable that you have 80 years of rich storylines. It's most of them rich storylines. Some of them aren't, but that's going to happen over 80 years. Of a character who started at the start of the World War. I mean, it was already the war was anyway. We weren't in it yet at that point, but yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And then to withstand all the different culture changes that we've had in our society, and to even though he's in a hiatus right now, we'll say, you know, in terms of his character in film, to still be so loved and so cherished and so deeply ingrained in our society. And I think when people make fun of comic books and make fun of comic fans, you know, I'm gonna say they can go themselves. I don't know how else to say it. You know, these things have been around longer than sports teams, certain sports teams. So maybe we'll bleep that. But I'm just saying that it's a big deal. I mean, you have a lot of people make, oh, these comic books are stupid. 80 years. Are you kidding me? Like, this is ingrained in our culture. And to deny that, to deny Batman, Superman, DC, Marvel, I mean, all of it, Star Wars, whatever you want to say here, I think people that do that are crazy, that don't acknowledge that. So I just wanted to say that. And I'm sure you have a follow-up to that.
Yeah, I mean, the longevity of comics, you mentioned at the end of the Depression era. I mean, it's survived the censorship of the 50s, the craziness of the campiness of the 60s. I mean, it's changed and rolled with the punches better than most anything could. And I think that's why comics have survived as long as they have, is because they do have a way of tapping into the popular zeitgeist of the time, and then kind of reflecting it back upon itself in a way that is entertaining and that can kind of, stand the test of time. And even though we make fun of some of it now, whether it's Dick Springs, how he designed the Riddler in the 50s, and or some of the campy, crazy storylines of the 60s, we do it in a way that we're making fun of it, but we still love it.
Yeah,
and still blow up.
Look, you brought up two good points I want to tap on. One is that, I was gonna say I'm not gonna be cliche, but it's almost kind of impossible not when you're talking about comic books. But the line is of Batman, he's whatever Gotham needs him to be. And what's amazing is how he's been whatever we've needed him to be. I mean, let's talk about that just for a quick second. This dude, this character went from being very dark to literally being a human cartoon. Okay, yeah. I will never lose the image of him running with that bomb over his head or the shark repellent. I mean,
some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it was a joke, and it worked, and people loved it. And then he went from that back to being dark. I mean, how many characters in pop culture have done that successfully?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think, not very many. Yeah. Not very many, that's for sure.
That's my point, is that just shows you how ingrained it is. And I just wanted to tap on this too. It's like, one of the things that really bothered me, I remember this, that, and again, I am going to preface this. I am not going to get into any specific politics with this, but a very popular political spokesperson, Bill Maher, ripped Stan Lee apart. And you'll see where I'm going with this. I know we're talking about Batman, but he ripped him apart when he died, about like people are a false god and worshiping this idiot, and like that's not a real thing. And I'm like, okay, so you're gonna rip on comics and people who love comics, which again is deeply ingrained in society, and you're gonna act like politics are serious when you have all this crap going on in the like. Don't take that away from people. Like, I understand that comic books are not real. We all do. I mean, nobody walks around thinking these are real, all right? Except for the movie Unbreakable and Glass and Switch. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that, like, this is part of what we do, and every culture in human society has done something along the lines of this. And to kind of negate that was just silly. I didn't get it.
Yeah, no, He makes, it's the classic thing. It's somebody who doesn't understand it making fun of it. Like, I mean, it's classic. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's kind of classic old man syndrome, get off my lawn kind of thing.
Well, like, he got a lot of pushback for that, and then he tried it again, and they really ripped him apart.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because he doesn't understand the culture. I mean, and I get that, and it's not for everybody. I'm not saying you have to be a comic book fan.
Yeah, how about the culture? Real quick, let's just talk about the culture, because go to a Comic-Con, go to any con, all right, and see these people that were completely lost in their lives, completely, and they found, I'll say, the freaks in the back of the room, all right, and they were able to congregate, and like, make no mistake, I mean, like, I'm a sports guy, I'm a comic guy, but I was a freak. I mean, you and I got made fun of relentlessly growing up,
yes,
just for this stuff, all right.
And now we're the cool kids.
No, now we have our own podcast.
Yeah.
And on top of it, like I said, this is like look what we're doing here. We love it. And we're best friends, like brother level friends.
Yeah.
And a lot of that started just over our love of geek culture and obviously similarities in the profession that we were chasing at the time. But I mean, this stuff brings people together. Politics doesn't.
No.
Right. So, that's the point I'm trying to make, is that give me a break. All right. This culture is ingrained in our society. There will always be weirdos. I'm doing a quote sign if you're not watching this. All right.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be freaks. And you know what? I will take my Batman and my Superman and all my DC, Dark Horse, Marvel, and every other comic book world over this stuff any day of the week. And it doesn't mean I don't care about politics or the country. I just approach that in a different way. Okay. And I probably would love to apply comic logic to a lot of those things because it would make more sense.
Yeah. And to the folks who say, oh, what about the toxicity in comic books and video games? It's like, look, there's always going to be, there's definitely a small nugget of negativity, right? There's definitely some folks who are overly critical and who sometimes lose the fun of everything that we're doing as a hobby.
Conflict. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Right. So I mean, there's I mean, they don't speak for the majority of comic book fans or video games. The silent majority most often.
Yeah.
So that said,
you know what everybody needs to do, Ray?
What?
They need to put on a happy face.
As the sun comes over the horizon and shines on my face.
That's what you call a perfect segue right there.
Yeah.
All right. And you're smiling and you're doing a little bit of a crazy laugh. So I'm going to say that's a mission accomplished on the transition right there.
Yes. Oh, so of course, also, folks who don't know, it just happens to coincide very nicely. DC is doing this thing called Year of the Villain. Mm-hmm. Also, while we're celebrating Batman's 80th, they're also celebrating all of the villains in the DC universe. And there's a big event coming up.
It's a great excuse to get away from Batman.
And so, of course, in October of this year, we are getting Todd Phillips's Joker movie starring Joaquin Phoenix. We got the first teaser trailer where we saw glimpses of Phoenix seemingly at different places in his life. One in full Joker regalia, and then of course the slow buildup of how it looks like he gets there. He puts a little smile on a little kid's face who we think, I think might be Bruce Wayne.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, if you think that could be a young Bruce, because on TV it's already been confirmed that guy who's pontificating on television, that's Thomas Wayne. Talking about the guy in a mask, that's been confirmed that is Thomas Wayne.
Okay, wow.
So Lee, let the speculation begin.
Yeah, no. Well, let's just first say, the trailer was phenomenal. Obviously,
yes.
I'm being very specific to the trailer. If we've learned anything with comic book movies, you can't have a trailer that's better than the film. Although this looks insanely promising. I love the description of the trailer, which is it's pretty much one man's descent into madness. Yeah, and I said to myself, "Thank you, thank you for doing that." Because here's the thing with the Joker. Okay, I was a big believer that it's a good thing he doesn't have an origin story, because I used to say we didn't need it because it would take away from the character.
Right.
This is my greatest compliment to that trailer. Now I feel like I'm okay with where it's going because it's going to show a side of the Joker that we've never seen before. Some quick things about it. Joaquin Phoenix looks terrifying throughout the entire trailer. When you see him in the full Joker gear, there's definitely some nods to Heath Ledger. I think that's fair to say.
I think to Heath, and I think to all the Jokers
for sure. When you see him walking down the hallway as the Joker, I remember looking at that and going, "Oh my God, there's the Joker!" like that's hard to do. Never ever got that in the Batman. The other guy,
Suicide Squad.
Yes,
that's
how memorable it was. I can't remember the dude.
Yeah,
like never did I feel like that was the Joker. I don't know what they were thinking with that. Let's honestly not get into that. That it just looks like
I work for DC. I can't comment on that.
Yeah,
film.
don't. I don't work for DC, and I'm not going to comment on it. That's where I'm at with that. Whoa, just dropped something on the floor. Oh, that was my phone. Don't worry, we can cut that.
It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor.
Yeah, that's how bad that movie was. Okay, but here's the thing. This trailer looks phenomenal. Number one, okay, Joaquin Phoenix looks terrifying in it. All right, he really does. All right, when he's doing that thing where he's putting the smile on people's faces, loved it. Just loved it, how disturbing it was, and it looks like it's going to be a horror film, which it absolutely should be.
Yeah, definitely towing that line for sure.
Yeah, and also the kind of freaky scenes, which I'm assuming is his mother. Like, it looks like he's gonna have a very turbulent, screwed up relationship with his mother.
Very little Norman Bates-ish there.
Yeah, which is perfect. It kind of has to be.
Yep.
And then, like I said, I didn't think that was Bruce Wayne. I was discussing this with my my blood brother last night. Actually, what was when does this take place? Is this a pre or post Batman thing? But now you got me thinking it's a pre-Batman thing. And then we talked a little bit too. And actually, I'm going to spin this to you because you will have more experience on this than I will. But to my knowledge, the origin story of Chicken and the Egg, Batman before Joker or Joker before Batman, is actually gone both ways before. Am I correct on that?
Everything that I know, thinking back, I would say all the most popular origin story takes in the Joker has Batman first.
Yeah, but so here's the thing, and you're right.
Technically, in the killing, I mean, he's in Gotham in a lot of the stories, right? Like he's around. I mean, but it depends, obviously the first one that comes to mind is the Killing Joke, right? Where he's
of course,
the Red Hood and he's a failing comedian and he's got the wife and and all it takes is one bad day and
Yeah, I'm thinking in the show Gotham, obviously he preludes Batman.
Correct. That's true. Yes.
Technically, in the '89 film, Jack Napier is
around well before. I mean, technically, and I think that's what they might be doing with this movie is similarly where they have Jack Napier kills Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Now that would not follow the canon of the comic, but that might be okay. The other thing too is that it will be very interesting just to kind of see how they do that. Because here's the thing: at the end of the day, and this is why I'm kind of okay with either side of that. That's where I'm going with this: is that Batman is born of the Joker and the Joker is born of Batman. That's kind of the to me that's the canon. Is that they are born of each other. Doesn't matter who does it first or second. I actually liked the '89 Jack Napier killing his parents because I think that added a little more to the conversation of Batman and the Joker and kind of what interlinks them through time.
Right.
Although the canon killer, what's the dude's name with the tattoos?
Joe Chill.
Joe Chill. So who's in the obviously the other Batman movies that
Batman Begins and
which have their place, right? But then we're moving on now. But I just the point I was trying to make, Ray, was just that those two characters are always interlocked. They are born from each other. That's really the crux of that story, and it'll be very interesting to see how they do that here. Again, I don't need Batman in this film, but they do have to acknowledge, obviously, the Wayne family in this film, and they probably do need to acknowledge Bruce in some form.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely think that even if that child isn't Bruce or they don't do the thing where he kills the parents, I definitely think, I mean, again, we know for a fact that Thomas Wayne will be a large part of this movie.
Yeah.
That he will be somehow, like, he will be the side of good and order in Gotham. And that's why you got the scene there of him, again, pontificating on television, talking about the cowards behind a mask, who we assume, at least at this point, because we know the Joker wears a clown. He has the clown makeup, but he also has there's a scene where you see he throws away the clown mask on top of that.
Yeah, beautifully done.
So I'm imagining that those scenes will tie together, but we'll see. But I think that this is going to be fantastic. I think this could be not the definitive Joker origin story, but definitely one that will join the conversation along with Killing Joke, along with 89. Again, depending on the universe. And what I hope is that this actually, if this movie does well, leads us to, and that is young Bruce Wayne, a new Batman universe in the films.
Great question. So for the next part of this, and to everybody listening, I just thought of this, and Ray did not know about this ahead of time. But Ray, because you work for DC, this next kind of 5-minute period is going to be more of me interviewing you and just asking you questions about things. Nothing that's like unveiling anything, but this is Lee Eli, a sports geek fan, interviewing Ray Carcillo of DC. Just to get your thoughts on some things. And I'm doing that because, again, I actually honestly don't know what you can or cannot get into. I don't want to do it. So if you can't say anything, just let me know. But here are some questions, right? Or here's some thoughts. One is that I think DC has kind of figured out that, okay, the big kind of Avenger, Justice League type films, like we don't necessarily need to do that. That our characters work better in their own films, kind of individually, without having to have a bigger picture. Would you agree with that?
I mean, I can't speak on behalf of theatrical and where they're possibly going. I think this is just obviously there's been a course correction.
Yeah.
We'll say, and I think that whether or not you can never say that there's never going to be another Justice League movie.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that for right now, it just seems like the standalone character film, maybe more than one. All right? I'm not saying they can't have like you said, Batman and Joker. I'm not saying that can't happen, but I'm saying it just seems like the solid storyline, sticking with the one story, not having to expand the universe too quickly, seems to be really working for DC right now.
I mean, everything. I mean, theatrically, everything's clicking right now. Obviously, Aquaman made $1 billion. Shazam's getting great reviews. I mean, yeah, we're doing Batman, the Joker. We got Wonder Woman 84 coming out. Birds of Prey. But see, Birds of Prey. There you go. That's more of a team film, right?
Yeah.
That's going to have Harley Quinn, Renee Montoya, Cassandra Cain, aka Orphan.
I see that more as just the Marvel comparison would just be it's more of a Guardians of the Galaxy feel in terms of how they build that team. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like it's not these films don't seem to be connecting to a larger storyline yet. That doesn't mean they can't in the future, but I think that works a lot better for DC. So and that will bring me to the next question I have about the Joker. Is like you said that here's an interesting thought. All right. Obviously, when Jack Nicholson played the Joker, you and I were too young to kind of understand that was happening, right?
Yeah.
And then when Heath Ledger was announced as Joker, there was a massive just fallout. Like people lost their minds, and then
I did. I was not thrilled with the choice at first.
Right. So that happened, and then when Jared Leto got it, again, people were just like, "What is going on?" And they probably weren't wrong.
Yeah.
Looking back,
on that one, we freaked out, and we were kind of in the right on that.
Right. I mean, everybody loves Mark Hamill as the Joker. Different kind of galaxy there, different universe there. But here's the thing: no one had a bad thing to say when Joaquin Phoenix got it. It was just kind of like, yeah, I can kind of see that. I can.
Yeah.
So. Do you think this is a one-off, even if it's great? Do you think it's a one-off, or do you think that they are trying to build maybe a larger universe with him in it?
I think that they're planning this as a one-off, but if it does really, really well, I think they'd be crazy not to bring him. They'd be crazy like the Joker, not to bring him back for a second film and try and use this as a launching point. Now, the thing is that you've got the Aquaman, Shazam, Justice League, like you've got this universe. The question is do you make this now? And the Suicide Squad, Jared Leto Joker, he's in that universe. Can you have two concurrent universes in film going at the same time? That's the tricky part. That's the thing that I think that DC might be worried about here is that if this movie does gangbusters, say $1 billion, right? Like pie in the sky number, but like say it does $1 billion, like absolutely crazy, blows everybody out of the water. How do you not bring Joaquin Phoenix back for a second Joker film and try and do a bigger universe? But then again, how do you not shoot yourselves in the foot with potentially with this other universe you got going on at the same time? It's going to be really interesting to see how they do that.
Yeah, well, here's my thoughts on that real quick. Is that it's a different scenario, but we did see X-Men and Marvel run side by side in different universes, although they're going to combine.
That's true.
They're going to combine now, and there's obviously some contractual rights in there that play into it. But that does show you the two Marvel universes can coexist. I think, personally, and again, I don't know your thoughts on this, that separating, I mean, this is going to kind of go anti-canon, but I think separating the Batman universe from the Justice League world is a great idea. Batman does not really fit in cinematically, I'm talking. Batman does not fit in the Justice League very well. We've always said this, you and I, that Marvel comics are humans becoming gods, and DC is gods that want to become human. And Batman does not fit in. He's
the outlier.
That doesn't mean he's not awesome, but I do believe you could separate the Batman universe from the Justice League universe successfully. All right, and you could have that Gotham kind of, let's call it the Gotham universe, right? Exist separately from the other ones. And here's the thing: like there's no indication that Aquaman, Wonder Woman, any of those films now are, again, they're not leading anywhere else. They're just kind of standalone films. Now, that doesn't mean they won't. I mean, it's just your two largest heroes are uncast as of right now. All right.
Yeah.
So you do have the ability to kind of like, hey, let's just see which one does better, and then we'll introduce, whoever we want. And here's the other thing. What Marvel just did with Into the Spider-Verse is a really interesting thing, because that's another storyline that has nothing to do with
the main cinematic Spider-Man. Yeah.
I would say that film was a little more self-aware. I mean, it did break the fourth wall a couple times and made fun of itself, not to a Deadpool level, but it was self-aware. All right. Like,
yes.
But you can do it. People will see it. This is the truth. This is the truth at the end of the day. You make a good movie, you make a good, rich storyline, people are going to go see it. All right.
Yes.
And I mean, even if there's two Batmans at the same time, and we've had 3 iterations of Spider-Man. Now we have 9. Okay.
Yeah.
And it still works. People still love them. So
yeah.
That would be my suggestion, is to kind of take the Batman universe, let that be on its own, because because it can stand on its own. We know that. We know that well. It's the other heroes that have never proven that. So let Batman have his world. Let the Joker have his world. All right. And let Aquaman, Cyborg, let all these other people, Wonder Woman, Superman, let them have their worlds too. But and then you mentioned Shazam. I mean, it sounds like they're going to build that family out. We already know that Dwayne Johnson's coming into that at some point. I mean, that could be its own world. So, and I kind of like how they make fun of each other. Like, I like Shazam makes fun of Batman and Superman a little bit. You know what I'm trying to say? So like I just think there's a way that this can exist. And I think at the end of the day, the message is for me to DC, and not to you, just in general, is don't try and be Marvel. You're not Marvel. You're DC. Be DC. You really created the world. You created the comics that you created. Let's own it.
Yeah, I mean, and also just a quick note: if we did ever want to combine universes, DC is actually probably a little better at that than Marvel, just because of all these things called crises on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, Identity Crisis. All this, there's a lot of crisis in DC's history. Because I mean, they're doing one in television.
Yeah,
there's always there's no reason. Flashpoint. There's no reason why one of those can't happen in a film.
About coexisting too, they have TV shows that coexist with their films.
Yes, yeah. I mean, well, again, they're all separate universes, right? The Arrowverse is the Arrowverse, then you have the Gothamverse on Fox, and then you have, so.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, DC invented how do we combine these things? Oh, just shatter the space-time continuum. They did it first. Remember, DC Comics killed death. Right, DC Comics is why we have heroes and villains that can come back from the dead. They are the ones that's established that. They didn't have a fancy glove with Infinity Stones. They had Superman, and he came back, and it changed everything.
It did. All right, so we've been talking about comic books and whatnot for a while, but this is Geeks Who Like Sports. We should talk a little bit. You get to sneak the sports in.
This is what happens. It's going to be a 15-minute episode. Never is.
Yeah. We go from Batman to Men Who Swing Bats.
I could give you a slow clap on that one. Oh man, that was good.
Thank you. It is the beginning of baseball season. We're about a week into the 2019 season. Our teams are doing differently. Lee's Phillies are at the top of the National League with a 4-1 record. My Yankees are in the middle of the pack with a 3-4 record after a comeback win against Baltimore yesterday. But Lee, what are your aside from how well or poorly our teams are doing, what early storylines are you enjoying so far in the 2019 baseball season?
Well, look, there's a lot to enjoy in Philadelphia baseball right now. But I mean, look, the clear favorite is obviously just Bryce Harper's arrival in the city. And here's what I'll say. I won't talk too much about his play because it's been phenomenal. All right, the way he's handled himself in terms of being a great baseball player to start the season. I want to talk about how well he's done at embracing the fans of the city. Now, I'll be the first to admit there's a massive honeymoon period going on here right now, and not that I'm not buying into that. It's just like we're 4 games in. Let's not like I don't want to be hearing MVP and World Series yet. Like we're 4 games in of an endless summer. Okay. But what I've loved about Harper is he really gets the pulse of the Philadelphia fans. First game in, he comes in wearing a Philadelphia Fanatic and gritty T-shirt. His cleats have the Fanatic on it. He comes out, he bows to the people in the outfield. Then he plays great. And then the Phillies, if you have watched them, they have all these like little joke things they do now. Like so, whenever a guy gets to second base, they wave at the dugout. and the dugout waves back to him. And they all have their own handshake. So like there's a culture, in my work in sports, creating an internal culture in a team is insanely important, right? And this Phillies team has one. And then he hits a couple home runs, and then they go out to Washington D.C. to play the Nationals, and the Nationals fans are just. This is the thing. It's never a good idea to taunt Philadelphia. Okay, it's just not. So a lot of people don't realize this. Nationals Park had to stop selling tickets to Phillies fans because there were too many Phillies fans going. And then there was all this like, if we don't want you because you went to Philadelphia for the money. And I'm like, look, money played a part in it, but you don't sign a contract you can't get out of for the rest of your career because it's only about money. Like he wants to set roots down. And then he goes out there. I love it. He goes out there, hits a home run, right? He's bowing to the people there. He's going nuts. He does a bat flip. I mean, and to be fair, he also sent a very nice letter to the Nationals fans about his time there. Dude just gets it. Last night he's at the Sixers game ringing the bell. I mean, I've never seen an athlete come into Philadelphia and embrace the fan base like this before because our fan base is terrifying to most athletes.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean,
and most fans.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're always ranked the most intimidating fan base, and we wear that kind of as a badge of honor, whether or not that's a good idea. That's up for the debate. But he's embraced the city. The city has embraced him. Hopefully, he's going to have a long career here that's really vibrant. But the Phillies look great. They look alive. The game we lost was by 1 run. I mean, first 4-0 start, I think, since it was the teens, 1913, 14. Like one of the years we won the World Series in the teens. Yeah. So a lot to be excited about for baseball here right now. Now, with that said, I will segue to you. This is very awkward for me to have a team that is where it's at, and you not to have a team feeling like it's going to be a good year.
Well, I mean, you speak of culture, and I think the first thing, the Yankees have been hit by the injury bug.
Absolutely.
Of our starting day roster, Lee, we already have 40% of that roster on the injured list.
That's horrible.
And that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, that for all those guys, I mean, our strength and conditioning coaches must be fired immediately, because for all those guys to be hurt, I mean, look, Troy Tulowitzki getting hurt, that's like saying the sky is blue. Yeah. That was going to happen, right? But all these other guys, Stanton, Betances, Hicks, Severino, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it's so, I mean, to a degree, injuries. But I definitely think that the culture in the Yankee locker room, as much as a lot of guys didn't like Joe Girardi, I think Joe Girardi knew how to keep the ship going in a certain direction. And even if people didn't like him, he used that, right?
Yeah.
Aaron Boone inherited a team last year that won 100 games. He could have won 100 games with his eyes closed.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be a real test of Aaron Boone and his tenure here with all these injuries, with a bit of a slow start, to see if he can keep the ship together. I mean, you've already had Aaron Judge, who is again, speaking about a guy who got a fan base as soon as he arrived. Right, as soon as the Yankees called him up, Aaron Judge basically became a superstar.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is. It was amazing what he was.
No, for sure. But again, a meteoric rise for a guy who had just arrived on the scene. He's already calling out the locker room. It was in a very public fashion.
Yeah,
I mean, and he's trying to be a leader, but also typically that's not something the Yankees typically do.
Yeah.
So it's a bit counterculture, and it's interesting. It's interesting to see, is he trying to be a leader because he feels he has to be a leader as this young kid, this appointed, probably going to be the next captain, the new Derek Jeter, all these, because he's had all this pressure shoved on him already.
Yeah.
And is he being forced into that leadership role, which he might not be good? He might not be good for.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, but and is the team overreacting? And I think that this is Boone. Boone needs to step up as a manager and needs to get needs to take control of this ship.
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
go ahead.
It could very easily look. You can't win the World Series in the first month of the season, but you can definitely dig yourself a hole that you can't get out of.
Yeah, as a Phillies fan, I know all about that.
Yeah,
and as a Phillies fan, I'm actually learning what it must have felt like for so many years. To be fair, but here's the thing: you brought up Joe Girardi, and I do want to talk about that real quick because the man came in following the greatest coach ever, in Yankees history, which is not easy. He still won, and he had a group of egos, and no one. I'm not saying that in a negative way. Right? I'm just saying There's no, I mean, that team at that time was a group of massive egos, and he still managed to find a way to win with them.
Yeah,
right? And
A-Rod, Jeter,
yeah,
Sabathia, Matsui, yeah, like
yeah, and
Swisher.
yeah, and I mean, like you said, Jeter. I mean, the man's a god at that time. I mean, it's just that
Yeah.
that was not an easy team to manage, and
He
still
played
won.
with Jeter. He
Exactly.
played with Jeter.
Yeah, and they still won.
Yeah.
So Aaron Boone, who has my memories of him beating up a water jug, but
Yeah.
he comes in now. Now the culture, like you said, is completely different. It's a totally different time period for the New York Yankees. All right, again. I mean, would you say there's any heroes on that team of like yesteryear? Like there's no legacies on the team right now, right?
No.
So
No.
yeah. I mean, like, you know what? This is kind of you're gonna laugh at this, but like when the New York Yankees rebuild, this is what it looks like. You know what I mean? It's still a really good team, but it's like Jeter's down in Florida, and all these guys are away. So yeah, they're gonna have to find their way a bit. And I think you said it perfectly that there's a massive culture change going on. Aaron Judge is facing a lot of probably adversity in terms of like, who are you to tell us what to do? And but look, you said it at the end of when you were talking. The managers have to manage. Okay, manage your team. Find a way to do that. Gabe Kapler and the Phillies, who had one of the most hilarious starts as a manager I've ever seen. All right, just massive losses, bringing in infielders to pitch. He created a culture there, and I'm not. I'm going to just quickly use this as a reference. I'm not trying to switch to football, but they talked about that with the Eagles. The Eagles had such a culture the year that they won the Super Bowl, and that they created that. But that wasn't done the year they won. That was done by Peterson the year before, and they had established this culture. So, Gabe Kapler's been there for a season. The Phillies actually had a pretty good season last year, considering where they were for the couple of seasons before, and the culture's established. And now you have Reese Hoskins. Now you have Harper. You have a just terrifying lineup. Terrifying. I would not want to pitch against the Phillies right now. I don't care what team you root for. You have to say that lineup is terrifying.
Yes,
right?
It is a stacked lineup.
You're just praying the pitchers in the order. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like I said, the Yankees will get back to that. I mean, they always do. I mean, everybody hates the Yankees, but they always get back to it. It's just, I mean, I know you've had your decades where the team was in the 1980s, but like this team, I respect the Yankees. I've never had a problem saying that. I mean, to accomplish what they've accomplished in professional sports, you can hate them all you want. I mean, they're always going to have them. You know what I mean? So, it's going to be super interesting.
Excuse me. Again, fighting that cold, but
it's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I mean, look, again, we won 100 games last year, but like you brought Aaron Boone in. I can't remember. Joe Girardi got within one game of a World Series.
Yeah.
The Yankees that year won the wild card, got to Game 7 in the ALCS against the eventual champion Houston Astros, and you fired your manager. I just, no other team in sports would do that. Like, I just don't get it. And now, and again, and because of that, I mean, look, Girardi wasn't the greatest manager, but they won with him.
Yeah, exactly.
They won a World Series. They never had a losing record over the 10 years he was with the team. He managed them through a rebuild, still to 85, 90 wins every year, and kept them competitive.
Well, Aaron kept Boone, the culture of the Yankees intact. I think that's I think that's fair to say, which is not easy to do.
No, and I don't know if that culture is going to stay intact under Aaron Boone, and this is going to be his first real big test. Because he didn't get tested last year.
These are the times I miss Steinbrenner. Like I would, and it not because of his leadership quality, just because he would have said something that would have made everybody go nuts, and I miss the guy.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that you have Hal and Hank, and Hal handles the money now. Right, and he handles the day-to-day, but Hank is the baseball guy. Hank is more like his dad, but Hal keeps Hank in the corner, like worrying about like their horses, racing horses they own, and like their other businesses. Like, because Hank would be like his dad. Hank would be in the New York papers right now saying, "This team is garbage. We need to trade for somebody." Yeah. And it just even the front office has changed. I think everybody misses George Steinbrenner.
We're talking about comics and sports and mythology. I mean, the Yankees are a mythological group. All right, they are a mythological team. All right, and I think that, like I said, you can't argue that they are the standard in sports.
Yeah.
Period. in terms of winning. All right, and like I said, I don't like the Yankees. The Yankees beat my team in the 2009 World Series. I had to live in New York for many years to hear about the Yankees every single day. I got tired of it. At least they're at the Mets. But anyway, the point I was trying to make is that there is no higher standard than the New York Yankees when it comes to championships in sports, and to, like you said, to take any focus away from that, even with the last name Steinbrenner, is asinine to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, do you remember that movie that George was in, The Rookie? It wasn't The Rookie. What was it? It was that movie with Brendan Fraser. Steinbrenner was in that movie.
Oh, what's the name? Was it the?
Was
it the Rookie?
I think it was The Rookie. And The Rookie is another movie with what's his name?
With Albert Brooks is
Yeah.
the bumbling agent who finds.
Yeah.
I know the movie you're talking about with
Rookie
Brendan Fraser.
No, it wasn't Rookie of the Year either. Jeez.
No, Rookie of the Year was the kid who broke his arm and then could suddenly throw super fastballs at the Cub.
Henry Rowan-Gardner. I remember that.
Yes,
I'm looking it up right now. Hold on, I'm gonna find this because I think that's gonna help you segue into our next scene here.
Yeah. Well, yes. While Lee is looking up, so we looking up that movie. To do our mashup for this week, there have been a lot of great sports movies over the years, especially baseball movies.
I got it. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you intro first.
And so we thought, and it's, again, Batman, people who swing bats. We figured, what sports movies would folks from the Batman universe really, really love?
Yeah.
What would be their favorite sports movies? So speaking of sports movies, Lee, did you find what was the answer?
My friend? It was The Scout.
The Scout. That's what it was. That's right. Not
so
the Rookie.
We knew it was
Scout.
The Something.
Yes.
The Scout. George Steinbrenner was in that film. It was actually a really good movie for the time it came out. A lot of people probably wouldn't enjoy it today, but I enjoyed that movie.
Yes, it was a good movie. I think it was a little bit inside baseball for folks who didn't want inside baseball at the time.
Yeah.
And then of course that started to change with things like Moneyball and whatnot. And obviously baseball has changed over years with sabermetricians and WAR and all these other stats that they rather look at. Well, they rather look at their papers than watch the actual game, and that's another thing that I hate about Aaron Boone is that he cares more about matchups than actually he doesn't have a feel for how the game should be played anymore.
Sure, yeah. I've always said too, like as someone involved in that side of the sports world, sabermetrics, analytics, all that stuff is insanely important, but it's not the whole shebang. I can mathematically do everything, and it will make my team better to understand the math. Okay. But there's a human element, and you have to be able to coach that human element, and a lot of that comes down to the game. The one thing that Moneyball said that I think went over everybody's head is it's really hard not to be romantic about baseball, and that there's a lot more truth in that than people realize. It's not just a numbers game, all right? Although you need those to survive. I'll say that. No, for sure. Not to say they don't have a place, but when you just focus on the numbers and you remove the romance, which I think is what Boone is doing and some of the Yankee front office folks are doing, I think that's kind of when you see the struggle because like you said, you gotta have your hand on the pulse of the game and your team. And I don't know if Boone does, but anyway, sorry, we're getting back into that. Back to the subject at hand. So our first character, of course, is Batman himself. Lee, what would you think is Batman's favorite sports movie? Well, it's funny. When I came into the show today, I was going to say 8 Men Out because it's just a little bit dark and scowly. That's the new word I'm inventing today. But now that you got me, we said Moneyball might actually make more sense. It's very analytical. It's very precise like Batman is. And, they don't win in the end. And I could just see Batman watching that and at the end standing up being like, let me do it right. I'm going to find a baseball team and I'm going to make them win. I could see him doing something like that.
Yeah, the Gotham Knights. He'd probably go get the Gotham Knights.
Well, for all we know, Bruce Wayne actually owns that team already, probably. But go ahead.
Probably, he probably owns all the sports.
That's something we should find out.
Yeah.
How many world championships do the Gotham Knights have? Who's their actual owner? Right? I bet you that exists somewhere. I bet you there's information.
I'm going to go into the DC library when we're done with this, and I'm going to try and find out. Look for the issues.
I forgot what Metropolis's baseball team was called.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember.
The Metropolis, they don't ever win. So that's because Metropolis is in Delaware, and Delaware does. For those of you who don't know, Metropolis is apparently in Delaware.
Supposedly, yeah. Like the DC universe, not surprisingly, is kind of like between New York City and Washington, D.C.
Where's Gotham?
Jersey.
New Jersey, which makes much sense. It makes complete sense. Anyway, go ahead.
So for me, my Batman favorite movie would be Field of Dreams.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, he just wants his dad back. And I think that Bruce Wayne deep inside. That's Bruce Wayne, right? At the end, that it would just he wants that connection and that emotional connection, and he misses it. And so I think that deep down in the Batcave, when Robin's out on patrol without him or whatever,
deep down in the Batcave,
deep down, and Alfred's cleaning the chandeliers or whatever in the Wayne Manor.
Is there crying watching that?
He's crying watching Field of Dreams.
Joe Jackson was my father.
Yeah.
How about this, right? If you build it, Martha will come. Why did you say that name?
Oh man!
Why did you say that name?
Oh God!
Thomas Wayne will come. That would be terrifying if they made a Batman Field of Dreams, Field of Bats.
Field of Bats. I'm gonna pitch that to DC. I'm gonna pitch that to some guys and see if they'll let me write that one shot, a Batman sports one shot.
He said, "If you build it, he will come." Master Wayne. Alfred, I told you never to come down here.
Yeah. The thing is that Batman has so much money, he'll just be like, "Yes, I'm going to sign off on this brand new stadium for the Gotham Knights." Like, there we go.
I think this is more of a Lego Batman storyline, if I had to guess.
Oh yeah, okay. True.
All right.
Yeah.
Lego Batman, one of my favorites. Hey, look, there's another character that can coexist. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I think from the Batman Detective Comics guy, mine would be Moneyball. Field of Dreams makes sense too. All right, let's go. Who's another character we can divulge?
Well, how about Robin? How about Robin?
Okay, that's easy for me. Robin would be a big fan of Rudy.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, he is Rudy. He makes no sense. He's a little tiny guy. He got in the play, and then he's a big time hero now. Look at that little guy, and he's questionable outfit choices all the time. But yeah, Rudy.
That's fair. So for me, we mentioned it very briefly earlier with Mr. Baumgartner. Rookie of the Year would actually be Robin's favorite movie because I think that he would relate to Henry Baumgartner, like this kid who suddenly gets thrust into the limelight, who's suddenly on the big stage.
Rowan Gardner.
Flock
and Flurker. You can do it. You can do whatever
Yeah. But I think he'd also have fun with it. I think he would see himself on it. Picture's got a big butt. Like he'd have. I think Robin would see himself in Rowan Gardner.
Bane's got a big butt. I can see that.
Exactly, and I think that
makes a lot of sense.
I think he'd have a lot of fun with it. And then at the end, he helps the Cubs win a World Series, and he becomes a hero in his own right.
Yeah, we should quickly talk about that was a great '90s film.
Yes.
For the time period we were at.
Yes.
B, we should also mention that because we probably have some younger listeners here. When that movie came out, there was no chance the Cubs were ever going to win a World Series. Yeah. They hadn't won it in 100 years almost at that point, and it's just that's what was funny about it being the Cubs. And now they've won. And the amount of memes that came out after they won, by the way, were phenomenal with that movie. But really classic 90s baseball film, still very watchable today.
Yes.
So much fun in that film. So yeah, that actually is a better choice than I made. That's a total Robin film. The feel of Robin, totally like it. Love it.
Yeah. All right. Who else?
Last one. Let's last one because we got to move on.
All right.
We talked before a little bit about how there's some that are obvious, Mr. Freeze would probably be a big fan of Miracle or Slapshot or something like that. And
right.
But I'm trying to think of a good one. Who's another good character we can jump into?
Oh man, this is.
How about Ra's al Ghul?
I was literally just about to say it.
Look at that. Yeah. See, we're on the same level. I think that's a good character because he's been established recently. Wants to live forever. Do you have anything coming to your mind for a movie?
Forever. No, I don't think he'd be a Sandlot fan. I don't think he'd be a Sandlot fan.
I don't think he would. Although that's coming back too. Just can't escape anything now.
He would like a movie that's just brutal and bare bones and gets the job done and kind of he'd like a darker sports movie. He'd he wouldn't like Freddie Beeman, but maybe even on Any Given Sunday, he could see himself in the Al Pacino character where it's
we should qualify sports because here's the thing, I'm thinking something like Kickboxer now. That's a sports film.
Oh, right? That's a good point.
All right, because that's brutal. All right. My Kickboxer, the Jean-Claude Van Damme where the guy's dipping his hands and everything and stuff like that. I could totally see him liking that film.
No, that's a good one. Kickboxer.
You think outside the box. I was gonna go with Karate Kid, and then there's got to be a harsher video than Karate Kid, and then Kickboxer popped in my head.
Yeah, something. Yeah, definitely. I think he would love
R-rated
Kickboxer.
Street Fighter, as I call it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. He's being a bad guy. He's probably the one guy who likes Rocky 5.
That would make him an evil villain for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tommy the Machine Gun.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. He might. You know. What about Rocky 3? That might be a good pick for him.
I was thinking that. I think Rocky 3. I think he'd be obviously rooting for Clubber Lang the whole time, but like, I think that. I think I could see Raish being a big Rocky fan.
Yeah, here's the thing. Real side note: Rocky 3, in my opinion, outside Rocky, is the best Rocky film. Everybody loves Rocky 4, and I get it, but like it's super unrealistic.
No,
a lot of it takes a lot of liberties. It's super driven with late '80s, turmoil. Rocky 3 tells the story of a man who loses and is terrified to win again. It is super realistic. It's super relatable. It's super watchable today. His arch rival becomes his best friend to train him. I mean, it's a really complete film. And I felt I agree to say that Rocky 3 is the best of the Rockies, excluding Creed's films, because Creed 2 is pretty much Rocky 3 and 4 together. But I'm going on a tangent, so I'm not there. And we're way over our time. So hopefully you've listened to this entire thing. If you have, God bless you, because we know people out there like to talk about these things.
Yeah, no, I don't know what we're. Oh yeah, we just crossed the 50-minute mark.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for the time.
Get out of here. They're gonna kick us out soon.
We've been trying.
What are you talking about? Comics and movies.
This is what happens. You mentioned it earlier. Me and Lee were like, "Are we going to do a half hour today? Right? We're going to do a half hour." And now we're almost at.
Yeah, we'll work. We'll work to be better. But real quick, if you are still listening, send us some comments. We really want this to be more of a conversation while we're the ones talking about it. It's more fun when there's more people involved. So let us know what you think of Batman. Let us know what you think of the Joker trailer. If you're a sports fan, how's your baseball team doing? What film do you think popular comic book people, and you can out there, you can pick any comic book person you want, what would their favorite sports movie be? And do you agree or disagree with our picks? Let us know. You can email us we don't have one yet, but we will. Or we do have an email, right? You made an email?
No, we have geekswholikesports@gmail.com.
Boom. Geekswholikesports@gmail.com.
I was working hard last week. I got that all set up.
Yeah, I'm going to do it in my Batman voice, and you do it in your Joker voice. Okay, I'm going to say, geekswholikesports@gmail.com.
geekswholikesports@gmail.com.
Now people are going to be terrified. But that's our email address. So email us what you think. We'll probably get some social media stuff going. We're just doing this for fun. It's been great. Ray, I enjoyed this a lot. Thank you.
So did I, buddy. Thank you. All right, we'll see you all next week, hopefully, or hear from you. And this has been Burley. I'm Ray. This has been Geeks Who Like Sports.